I got this message, text message through to me the other day, and I thought I'd answer it on video because it's one you can't explain. You know, I try and answer all the messages I can, whether on Instagram or text message or lots of other places. But it's about writing a book. Now, I'm not an expert at writing a book, but I've written 2 so far: 31 Minutes and Frequency. They're just easy reads. And I think there is, like, after writing those 2, I'm going to share with you how I do it now, because I'm writing my 3rd book. I don't know if I'll write another one. I'm going to try and make this one the best I can, and it's about designing your life. But I definitely think there's a sequence. Here's the question that I can't remember the person's name, but hi Matt, I'm a huge fan of your work, currently in the early stages of writing a book. What are the breakdown steps in your writing process? Did you work with a publisher, coach, or editor? What inspired 31 Minutes instead of a real estate focused topic? You've got to write something that's coming from your heart. You know, with writing a book, it took me years to actually, I tried to write different things, you know, a sales one, I don't know, and other ones, and they just didn't flow properly. And then one day I thought 31 Minutes is a good book to write, and the impulse stays with you. Like it's that thing that's there and it doesn't go away. So after like a year or 2, maybe 2 or 3, I thought, yeah, I could write that book. And the ideas seem to just come. So first thing is go and buy a couple of these books. Something that's a little bit harder cover, it's going to last a little bit, the pages aren't going to fly out. And then first, write the title, and then I write the chapters. So this is the book I'm currently writing now, and it's got 15 chapters. And in the chapter, the thing I learned out of writing the last one is I'd just write the title of the chapters, then I'd start writing the book. But because you write in chunks, you don't write all the time. Like, you know, I don't sit here writing all day. I've got to work and do other things. So I've got to build a bit of momentum around owning a space of time that I can write the book a bit each day if I can. There's a bit of a story to that as well. So this one, the journey so far. And then in what I learned from the last book is instead of writing just the chapter as number 1, I'd write the bits of the chapter. So this is like my journey up until now, trials, tribulations, and success. Getting started at 51. It's been like a runway. No, it's been like, I can't even understand my own writing. Getting started at 51, it's been like a runway. So that's the parts of chapter 1. And the reason for that is let's go to chapter 1 here. So chapter 1, getting started at 51. I've decided to make that the title, which is a bit different here. So the journey so far. So getting started at 51, I thought was a better title once I started writing the chapter. Before this, just so you know, I did write an introduction, and the introduction is, I never read introductions in books very much. I wasn't really a big book reader, but the introduction I wrote is sort of bringing people up to date with where I'm going to start writing now. So this one happens to be a bit of my past, bit of that sort of stuff, all in an introduction. And then chapter 1 is getting started from last year. So that's when I started writing it. I'm 52 now. So it takes a little bit of time to get this thing moving. So in chapter 1, I'd write about getting started and I'd do all that sort of stuff. But during writing the chapter, I'd go back to, because you'd sort of forget sometimes a little bit, I'd go back to the points that I wanted to cover in the actual chapter. So the points I felt inspired about. Because I might write, I saw an author speak at McGrath a few months back, and he's a really popular, I can't remember his name. He writes on Stoicism. And what he said was, his whole world is writing. He said writing 2 or 3 crappy pages a day is better than nothing. I really took a lot out of that because I used to do 31 minutes. So when I wrote Frequency book and the 31-minute book, I'd just write for 30 odd minutes a day and then stop. So now I see it as I write 2 or 3 crappy pages minimum every day. But that wasn't the case when I first started writing this one. I started writing it and then I just, not lost interest, I just wasn't committed enough. And I reckon that went for about 6 months. I'd sort of write a bit and then I'd leave it for a week and then I'd write a bit more and leave it for a bit and then I'd write a bit more. Whereas now I've made a commitment to write 2 or 3 crappy pages a day. And so chapter 1, I want to make this book a little bit longer than 31 minutes and frequency, like a bit thicker, a bit more information packed, because the other ones are just easy read. So I reckon my chapters, these ones are about 5 or 6 pages long, these ones. This morning, I think I wrote 5 pages. So it depends on how much time you got, depends how energized you are. Yesterday afternoon, I wrote a little bit more. Yesterday morning, I wrote a little bit more. So now I've got the momentum going. I handwrite the whole thing first. And the reason for that is I feel a really great connection. There's a better connection with writing than typing. So when you're writing something, there's like an energy transfer. You sit there and it flows through you. It doesn't mean it doesn't flow through you when you're typing. But after I've written the whole book, so now I'm up to chapter 5. And chapter 5 is, I can see it. And chapter 4 is about accountability. And chapter 5, as you can see, lots of writing. Chapter 5, work. What if you don't like it? What if you don't love it? So it's talking about work and loving it and things like this. So it has a reason, and what do you do about it if you don't actually love your work? Because everyone says you've got to do what you love. Well, that's not always the case. So that's what this chapter is about. And when I'm handwriting stuff, I feel very connected to it. I'm sitting there, I'm thinking about it, I'm writing, I'm crossing out. It feels like I'm really immersed in it. I feel the emotion's different in it. So when I finish handwriting the whole thing, and all the way through the book, I'm constantly going back to, so on chapter 5, that's why these little points underneath the title's important. What's your passion, own your time, a great team, company, or, I can't even understand what that says, but I'm sure it'll make sense later. You choose where you work, no one's making you, stuff like that. So I know the points I'm trying to cover in this chapter. It doesn't mean I can't add things, and quite often I do. I might think of another point and I'll put it in there. But I'm always going back to that, the title, the points, and then as I'm writing, especially if I've written 2 or 3 pages for the day and then come back the next day, you've got to pick up the flow from there. Because when you're coming back to it all the time, your energy might be different from one day to the next, and you've got to pick the flow up a little bit. So I'll look at where I've written at the end, and then I'll try and pick up that flow, and then I'll go back to the chapter title and the points, and that sort of re-engages you. Here's a tip. So see here how I've written, because I might not have like a lot of time, okay, some days. Some days I might just have 20 minutes to do it. See this part here, I've written up to here that day, and then I've got up to here, and then I wanted to stop writing. So I write in brackets, accountability is your new superpower, consistency and discipline will become your brand. So I've put that in brackets because when I come back tomorrow, I remember sort of the flow, because I've still got a flow going on in my mind. I remember, okay, that's a point I just need to pick up with and keep running with. And it sort of jogs your memory again, because if you don't do that, sometimes you get there and go, I can't actually remember what I was trying to say there. So all of those little tips. So after I've written the entire book, handwritten, I'll sit at a computer and I'll type it all out again. And I'll type the whole thing like I'm rewriting the book. It's much quicker, but it still takes a while, because I'll read it as I'm going, I'll be typing, and then I'll think, I could have written that better, I could have changed this point, and you almost be inspired, because this is like a big mental dump on here, like all of the ideas and things and whatever else, and when you're typing, you're almost thinking like a book structure. And then once that's done, I'll read the whole thing again, maybe read it again, or I'll get Tara to read it or somebody else to read it. Once that's finished, and I've typed the whole thing out, then I send it to an editor. It's an editor I've used on both of the last books, and she copyrights it. She goes over it for grammar, how it sounds. She'll add to it. She might spend 2 months on it, maybe more. And then she'll go over all that together. She'll also say, should we leave this point in? Do you feel it's necessary, or should we change it to this wording? And we'll go right over that again. She spell checks the whole thing and basically gets it ready for print. Once she does that, she gets the final copy back to me. I read it again, and then we send it off to print. So I haven't worked with a publisher. I don't know how you do that. I have friends that are in that world. This book, I might talk to them to see if they would be interested. But I think I'd still go about it the same way. I'd self-publish, I'd get it printed, and then I'd probably send them copies of the books and see if they wanted to pick it up or not. That's probably what I would do. I don't know how else to go about it, but I just like to get it done, get it out there, and get it moving. So real estate topic, I don't know. I just haven't been inspired to write a real estate topic. Doesn't mean I won't, but it's that pulse inside of you. It says, there's a great saying that everyone's got a book inside of them. It's that thing that means the most to you. It's where you're up to in life. It's what you're passionate about. It's what you want to share. I think if you do that topic, it'll come out really good. You'll have so much inspiration around it, but it does take time. It's not an easy thing to do. I did think about ghostwriting, but I don't know. I don't think it's from your heart. I think that's different. Sure, you can sit there and talk it out and get it written for you and give all the ideas and stuff, but there's something about writing it down, there's something about typing it, there's something about reading it, something about going through it with an editor. So I hope that helps you in writing a book. There might be many other ways to do it and better ways possibly, but this is just the way that works for me. Looking forward to getting this book done, and I'll see you on the next video.